So I ran into a problem. I got it all sewn up here. This is the St. Patrick's manual that I've been working on. And let me show you what the book block looks like. It's completely sewn up. Everything's together, and for the first time in a really long time, I'm able to just flip through it without having fear that it's going to fall apart. Now that's all good and dandy. Unfortunately, there were some pages right at the hinge where you sew into that were completely missing. They were gone. Some of the pages were just split in half, so what I had to do was go through and essentially make little repairs. So I would tear off this really fine long fiber paper that's like an Asian type paper, and I would paste that into the pieces where it was completely gone. In many cases, I created a hinge. What that's done is it's created what's called swell. Now, swell is kind of what it sounds like. The page hinge here has gained a little bit more of length here. From here to here, there's a little bit more material there. And so that's typical. I mean, that's something that you should expect from repairing pages like that. The problem is now that when I put it into the case, it's too much. There's too much, it's too thick. So because of the swell, the book has sort of a wedged appearance, so it's thicker on this side than it is over here. It still closes fine, but it's creating quite a bit of stress here on the edges. And so a typical repair would cut these edges, and you would put a material in between the cover, the front cover, and the back cover, and that would create a nice round edge onto the spine. I kind of don't want to do that, but like I said, there is a stress here, a stress point, and I think it would make a lot more sense for me to do the repair as a conservation. You know, obviously I'm going to maintain everything that I can of the cover. It'll just look, if you look really closely, you can tell that this is cut off and that there's a material underneath. But I'm going to do my very best to blend it and make sure that you can't see it, so that repair is minimal, and again, that this book is usable, because that's the most important part. I want this to be usable. I don't want it to just live on a shelf. I don't want it to be just a conversation piece. I want this to be something that I can use. Now, something that I really enjoy about these prayer books is, and I think you'll find this kind of humorous, at least I do, take a wild guess as to what these pages are, the ones that are completely worn out in a prayer book. They are the prayers of the Mass. So this is how you can tell if a Catholic actually went to Mass and they used this in a very practical way, and this was a part of their prayer life. You're going to be able to see that the pages are completely worn out. So these are the ones that were really loose, the ones that I had to repair and mend. And let me go through here and show you what some of those repairs look like. This is the type of paper that I use, which is a long grain, long fiber paper. It's very typical with Asian papers, and they use it as a repair. So what you do is you tear it to the the shape that you need, and you paste it in with an archival type adhesive. In this case, I used a rice paste. And there were many pages that were just completely loose, like this, for example. And I had to go in and actually make repairs so that I could actually sew it back on. So there's a lot of pages like that I had to do. Unfortunately, that created a lot of swell on the spine. And that's the completed spine all sewn up. Here you could see the edges there. I got that wrong in the other video. It's not called gimping, it's goffering, those edges there in gold. And for the very first time, I can flip through this book without having fear that it's going to fall apart, which is a really great feeling. But the next thing I have to do is reinforce the spine. As you can see, it's way too thick, and I'm going to have to put it under some pressure there and straighten it all out and add some reinforcement to it so that it stays in that round shape, which I will be putting some different materials in there to make sure that happens. Every good book will have a nice rounded spine, not all of them, of course, and here I am hitting it with one of the hammers that I inherited from my dad. And this rounding, which actually I'm not actually hitting it straight on, I'm kind of glancing the blows off of the spine there,
it's actually creating a roundness to the spine, which you'll see in just a minute here as I put it into this vise. So right now I'm using a lot of really kind of primitive tools. You know, this press is just 2 oak boards that I'm using that I've cut down. Eventually I'm going to get to the point where I can actually put this together and use it as a vise. But here I am lining up the book block underneath, and getting ready to put some clamps on there, put everything under pressure so that it can stay in that shape, and then I can continue to reinforce the spine with some different materials and then prepare it so that I can actually put it in between those 2 book cover boards and finish the repair. But this is one of the advantages to this workbench. Picked this up at a Goodwill shop, got it used, and typically it goes for somewhere between 150 180 bucks. I got it for 30 bucks, which is a massive deal, and I don't mind it looking old and used. I actually think it gives it a lot of character. So this is me putting pressure on the book, and eventually once I get to the point of putting those reinforcements, it's going to be even closer to being finished, and being a book that I can actually use. Good. I think we're going to call it done. And the next video, probably get this whole thing finished up.